12.8, State Review to Decriminalise Sex Work in Victoria. Mr Walsh, could you please present this report? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council will recall that they deferred this item at the August Ordinary Council meeting. Yes. So the purpose of this report is for Council to note that Council officers have provided a submission to the review into the decriminalisation of sex work in Victoria, shown at attachment 1. So the officer recommendation is for Council to note the submission shown at attachment 1 and note that the Council officers have provided this submission to the inquiry and the Council is asked to endorse the submission and provides written advice to the inquiry secretariat of its decision.
Okay, thank you, Mr Walsh. Councillors, are there any questions or points of clarification? Mr Hedich, Councillor Hedich, sorry.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I noticed in the earlier part of the meeting in the public questions, we had a couple of questions come in that seemed to intimate that there was an underlying issue around the use of investigators and the impact it may have on sex workers. Can Director Walsh give us some insight into what the issue that's been flagged in those questions might be?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's difficult for me to speak for the questioners. You know, for someone who makes a submission to Council.
Can I just add to that, Mr Walsh, that it was brought up at the briefing that we had a couple of days ago and it was addressed.
Okay.
And there was also information forwarded today to councillors on the questions that were based at the last briefing. So,
Director Walsh, my question is regarding the. I think what I saw there was an assumption that there was an impact on the sex worker as a result of the work that we're doing potentially. Is that the issue that was brought up in the briefing? I wasn't at that briefing. I was away.
Through you, Madam Mayor, there have been there are divergent views on the use of independent investigators and the way in which those investigators gather evidence, and that was certainly in briefing in the Sex Work Law Reform Victoria Briefing Council. There was a discussion about that and about then the ethical and moral, or probably not moral, the ethical dilemma that dynamic sets up between the discussion between an investigator and a sex worker. And there was a little bit of discussion about that as an ethical dilemma in an investigatory process.
Okay, it's a difficult question to answer. Thank you, Mr Walsh. Councillors, are there any other questions or points of clarification? Okay. Could I have a mover for this report, please? Councillor Goodichere.
I'll move the recommendation as printed in the business papers, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Goodichere. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Borg. Okay. Councillor Goodichere, would you like to speak to this recommendation?
Just simply to say, Madam Mayor, that I think I have enough information now. Since the deferral at the last council meeting, we've also had a couple of briefings. We've read a lot of material about it, and I'm quite happy to endorse the officer's recommendation and the submission. Thank you.
Okay. Would the seconder like to comment on this recommendation?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Victoria's sex industry is regulated under the Sex Work Act 1994 and the Sex Work Regulation. Council acknowledges the community's concerns about illegal brothels being established in premises that present as massage parlors in Brimbank. Submission focuses on 5 key areas: advantages of decriminalizing sex work, regulatory and enforcement responsibilities, planning system, licensing, and worker safety. Introducing a model to decriminalize sex work in Victoria has the ability to streamline the regulations and enforcement of sex work and enable sex workers to operate like any other legitimate business. However, whilst a decriminalized model will allow council to have the ability to use planning power to regulate sex industry businesses through compliance with planning policies, it will only be successful if relevant legislation is consistent across the state and with other relevant legislation. In a successful decriminalized model, sex work would not be treated different to other work and therefore should reduce the level of monitoring and registration undertaken by the government and enforcement undertaken by police, councils, and other regulatory bodies. It's important to note that irrespective of whether sex work is decriminalized, it is recommended that local government should continue to act as the responsible authority to ensure brothels and sex works are appropriately located and authorized pursuant to a planning permit. I'm happy to support the recommendations presented by the council officers.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Are there any other speakers for this recommendation? Councillor Hedditch? Yes.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I've watched this one with interest, and I can only see a wicked problem. The officer's report and submission has gone in. The process closes very soon, and I guess my point of view is that in this city we've had a big problem with illegal brothels in different residential areas, and you know, around our way here we've observed girls getting in the back of trucks and lots of girls coming into houses, and the houses are being run presumably by people of ill repute, and the women involved are not in the best of circumstances. So for me, I think there is an obligation to try and prevent that illegal brothel, I guess, sub-industry growing, and the impacts on women and men who work in it, I guess, minimised, the harm minimised. I support all that. I hear the comments that are coming from the reformers about the potential impacts on sex workers and not the those who are running these illegal entities, and I hear that, and for me, I think as a community we do need to eliminate as best as we can that illegal subculture and industry that is prevalent around this place. But we also need to acknowledge that the women working in there are individuals, are being affected more probably than the organisations that are running these shows.
1 minute, Councillor Hedditch.
So for me, I find it important that the council does continue its work, and that the submission that's been made highlights that. It's a very difficult place to regulate, but I also have a great concern that the women involved in that industry aren't the ones that are fined and affected most by action that the council may take. So I'm not sure on this at all, and I am going to abstain from voting on this one.
Thank you, Councillor Hedich. Any other comments by councillors? Councillor Trung?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the potential to infect our community in losing the public trust and customer service impact. The potential for sex workers to work in the resident area may infect in our community through a loss of amenity due to unrestricted hours of operation, loss of safety and security for residents, and expose of children and vulnerable residents to improper activity if not regular. I think the review of determination sex work will need to consider regulation related to the occupation, the health and safety, building, environment, health and planning. Our local government will likely play an important role in regulating and enforcing sex work, placing in significant impact of result. And I think for the sex work could remove criminal law and very regulatory control related to broader in sex work. Change of regulation may have impact to the health and safety of our community. Importer or unlikely to be licensed for control of Victoria Police and sex work could be conduct of the resident area. I think there is no environment or finance risk to identify. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Trung. Right, any other speakers for this recommendation? All right, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3. Sorry. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All those against? All right, pass. Thank you.